Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Welcome back. For the second part of our program today, we bring the story home once again to Tampa, Florida. Previously, in a Care Florida episode of Exposed, we brought you the very high-profile case of Dr. Sami Al-Aryan, a former USF professor and a Palestinian activist who was targeted and tried using secret evidence. One of the co-defendants in that same case was local community member and community leader, and currently director of the Islamic community of Tampa, Brother Hatem Fariz. Like the others in the case, Brother Hatem faced a horrific ordeal of baseless accusations, stressful trials, and ultimately prison, despite being found not guilty. Tonight we hear from Hatem Fariz about his story and his reflections on exposed politics and persecution in the United States. Assalamu alaikum, Brother Hatem.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Sister Hiba.
Thank you for joining us. In a trial that was truly unprecedented in so many ways, I wonder if you can share with the audience what was your case and the government's prosecution really about?
In summary, over 200 counts, not one single conviction. The jury were 10-2 on most counts, except 8 of the counts. In my case, 9 in Dr. Sami Al-Aryan case.
And what do you think they were really targeting? Was it an individual or was it an ideology? What is the message they were trying to send?
Yeah, definitely they were targeting Dr. Sami Al-Aryan as an individual. They were targeting an ideology. They were targeting the Muslims and Palestinians. And they were trying to scare people so they can get their message through.
Even though you've been in Tampa for the last 10 or 11 years since your ordeal, a lot of people may not know the details of your story. And so I'm going to ask you to take us through a timeline of the events that happened, starting with the FBI raid into your home while you were sleeping, and what happened after that up until the point of the trial.
Well, the raid happened February 20th, 2003, and we were taken into custody until our bail hearing was out. We served about 3 months in Coleman waiting for the results of the bail hearing. Coleman, Florida, it's about an hour away from Tampa. And 2 of us were able to bail out, and the other 2 remain in from the 4 defendants in the case. The trial started June of 2005, ended December of 2005, with not one single conviction. After that, it was a mistrial with last 2, which is me and Dr. Sami, and the government came through and asked to have a deal instead of going through another trial and wasting another $500 million of taxpayers' money.
Before we move on to the trial, let's talk a little bit more about the raid itself. What happened that night, and who was in the home when this happened?
When they came in at 5 a.m., they knocked on the doors and the windows. They circled the whole house. And that night, I just had arrived from Hajj. They were waiting for me. The indictment was stamped the evening before, 5 p.m. the evening before. The judge just stamped the indictment as soon as I arrived to the States. They couldn't wait for me to go open the door. As soon as I opened the door, the next thing I know, I'm on the floor with all chains all over me. I asked to go put something on and to say hi to my children. They refused. They just took me in and drove me down to the FBI building, downtown Tampa.
So your children were home?
Yes.
How old were they?
4 and 7.
4 and 7. Do they have memories of this incident?
Yes, they do.
And how would you describe the impact on the family in the moment and even subsequently?
It was very hard for my wife and my children and my mother and my siblings and my community.
I'm sure. I'm sure. I can't even imagine. Were you expecting anything like this to happen?
No, not at all. I mean, there was nothing happened for this to happen anyway. And that's where we come out and say, this is the injustice and the fabrication of all these cases. Like so many.
What about the trial? Then moving on to the trial, you were held for a period of time and then you were released on bail. But when it was time for the trial, what was the verdict?
Like I said, 200 counts, 192 were not guilty from all 12 jurors. 8 counts remain with 10 jurors not guilty and 2 jurors guilty. The 2 jurors that decided to finish it, they sent a letter to the judge. They said, we are being pressured, we cannot continue. Had the judge let them go back for another day, we were told by the other jurors later on, it would have been a 0. There will be a 0 counts left. It'll be all a dismissed case. But the judge, when he took and received the note from the 2 jurors, he wanted it to just proceed and get something going and read the results, the next day. It was a 13 days deliberation in that jury box, that jury room, where all the evidence that the government showed, where all the evidence that we showed, where the jury, 13 days, they could not find not one evidence to show our guilt in any of the counts that we're charged with.
I can imagine that in a moment like that, it would bring an incredible sense of jubilation and happiness and relief to the defendants in a case. And then perhaps it surprised some people that afterwards there was a guilty pleading to one charge. Can you explain, there's a stigma that is connected, a psychosocial stigma in the community and even in a person, him or herself, to plead guilty. Can you explain the decision to move in that direction?
We did not feel that. I did not feel that. It's something that the government asked for to save taxpayers' money. It was a chance that you are going to take, and I don't want to deal with that. If we can come up with a time where that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, I would go for it. The government started with 80 months, 90 months, we started 24 months, and we end up right in the middle. I got 51, and Dr. Sammy got 57 months.
And
the charge was like an IEFA charge. It was not even a terrorism charge or anything. They just wanted I'm sorry?
I was saying this was happening concurrently with Dr. Sammy's case? Same time?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. And did you feel like the government just wanted to say something, just wanted to get something, even if it was not related to what they were hoping for?
No, the government lost the case in the eyes of the media, the eyes of the people, the eyes of the taxpayers. I mean, it was a big loss for them to put this heavy weight and heavy spending on such case, and to bring John Ashcroft himself to read the indictment in the White House and come out with 0. That was a win for us, alhamdulillah, and that was a shame to the government that did not do their job right and did not do us justice. And they continue to make the same mistake and do it with other cases nowadays.
Of course. Well, ultimately, I can imagine that seeing the precedent that exists in our government of prisoners who fight for their innocence and ultimately get the short end of the stick or are oppressively imprisoned for a longer period of time, I'm sure that there is a sense of understanding and um, compassion to moving in that direction. So ultimately, you were sentenced to 51 months. And initially, and very interestingly, you started that sentence for 3 months at Coleman Correctional Institution, just an hour from here, correct?
Yes.
But 3 months
And then,
later, yeah, 3 months into that sentence, you were transferred to a highly contentious institution, a federal penitentiary, a highly controversial communications management unit in Terre Haute, Indiana. And for those who don't know, this federal penitentiary at Terre Haute was previously designated as the site for federal death sentences and also as special confinement unit for death row prisoners. So I wonder what was that like when you knew you were being transferred there, not only to this institution that historically was so controversial, but also so far away, and known for, its confinement system? What was that like psychologically and emotionally?
it was very sad moment, very sad day for me when I found out about the move. First of all, it was at a state far away from my family. They have to travel and they have to make, arrangements for uh, plane tickets and rental car and hotels and expenses. And the other thing, which is more important, it was no contact visit, no phones. You don't have your 300 normal minutes like we used to do in Coleman, Florida, where in general population you have all your rights, visitations, open visitations, contact visit, phones, everything is unlimited for you. Um, Cafeteria unlimited for you, gym unlimited for you, library unlimited for you. Everything is available. And overnight, they just transfer you to a unit and they call it, CMU, Communication Management Unit, that is controlled and monitored by Washington, D.C., via video and audio to our single cells. Um, Visitations was 2 hours a month, and a lot of families could not afford to visit every month. Tickets are expensive, and to them, it was not worth the visit and speak on the phone behind glass.
What were the visits like? You said they were behind glass. Does that mean, can you hear me?
Yes, now
Okay. I'm just asking to describe one of the visits that perhaps your family might have made up there.
my son, my third son, when they came to visit, he was on the other side, the opposite side, and he was asking his mom, "Why can't I go hug my father?" And my wife is like, "Go ask the security guard. I don't have it for your son." So he walks out and he asks the guard, "Why can't I let me go in from that small, opening where they used to put the food for us from? I can fit through this opening. You don't have to open the door. I just want to go hug my father, kiss my father." And he's like, "If you don't go back, you will lose your visits for 6 months." Right now, he's talking about a child, a baby. So he ran back and he started crying that he couldn't hug me and he couldn't kiss me and he couldn't come by me.
SubhanAllah. The Eighth Amendment of the US Constitution is supposed to protect prisoners against cruel and unusual punishment. Could you describe the conditions of the federal penitentiary that you were at, the CMU? Um, would you say that the Eighth Amendment was being honored and respected there or violated in terms of
No,
specifically cruel and
it was
unusual punishment?
violated from day one. It was violated from day one. Um, no AC in the summer, no heat in the winter, no medical care, nothing, nothing, zero. We were using an old death row unit that had roaches. This, it's like as big as the cat, and it was just inhumane to live in that place.
Did you have the opportunity to complain about it?
Yes, we did maybe 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, went all the way to the 5th and 11th district, and at no avail, no results.
And you, sir?
I mean, people are still there. They continue to suffer, and they continue with the complaints. And maybe 5, 6 people they were able to transfer to back to general population, but most of them are still dealing in both CMUs. When they filled up the CMU at Terre Haute, Indiana, the max was 64 cells there. When the number exceeded 64, they opened another unit in Marion, Illinois, same exact unit for the rest of similar cases in the U.S.
What about the primary population there? Are they Muslim?
Yes. The first 3 months, they were all Muslims until we start complaining and sending our, attorneys to speak out about it, to show the prejudice of this Muslim prison only. And then they started bringing other, nationalities and faiths to come in and say, oh, this is for everybody, Muslims and Muslims, Arabs and non-Arabs. We had only four people that are not Muslim in those 2 units that held over 130 political prisoners.
Were there others in similar situations who were tried and prosecuted based on baseless allegations and so on and so forth?
Most of the ones that came into these units had sting operations. Most of them, young children, 16, 17. They're serving lives and 25s and 30s because they scared them. They set them up. You can't just wait until they turn 18, prosecute them as an adults. When you use them in the last 2 years at a young age, you took advantage of them. And this sting operation was and continue to be the worst in these cases.
What was the relationship like between some of the older brothers and the younger ones? Was there an opportunity for camaraderie, for support, for maybe education, Juma?
Definitely. Well, in the beginning, the first month or two, we used to do lunch together. We used to do Jum'ah together. We used to do the rest of the prayers, at least 3, 4 people together. All of that stopped. They stopped all of that. Yep, that picture was way before they isolated every one of us. Everyone now prays in their cell, Jum'ah, 5 prayers, reads Quran in their cells, allowed 5 books only. When you finish your 5 books, you send them out and you wait for the next 5. And it continued to be like this until I left that place.
And you served your whole 51 months, or
Yes.
minus the 3 initially there, and then you came back. You came back to Tampa, Florida, correct?
Yes. Correct.
One thing that I find very fascinating about you and knowing you and working with you, Brother Hatem, mashallah, is that many people are so shaken by this type of ordeal that they come back like hermits, just don't want to get involved, don't want to say anything, don't want to rock the boat. But mashallah, your courage is very inspiring, and your resilience and perseverance in standing for what is right and justice is incredibly motivational. And I just wonder if you can share with people who might be listening, where does that courage stem from? And how do you overcome what I would imagine would be natural hesitation or trepidation to move forward or to speak up so loudly on issues on Palestine or other injustices that are happening all over the world, or even American social issues? MashaAllah, you're in every space, whether it's an injustice in Syria or in the Middle East or in India or in China, or even social justice issues here at home in America. MashaAllah, you're present there. So I wonder if you can speak to that a little bit.
Well, we all know that they try to push and to scare our community. When we are doing things right, and when we are doing things according to the Constitution, according to the American law, according to our Islamic laws, which they work together, and they're in disagreement or in agreement with each other. So there is nothing to worry about, and you cannot just hide and sit back and watch your brothers and sisters and everybody else in this injustice while you've been through it and you stood up and you took it all and you felt you dealt with it firsthand. You don't want others to, there are some people who cannot handle this, whether the prisoner or his family or her family, they just can't handle this. They just cannot continue with this. Families are destroyed. Couples are divorced because of all the sentences, all the timing that they're doing in there, and their children are just being shunned away from the community, from our own community. So we need to support them. We need to stand with them. There is nothing to be afraid of. We're not doing anything that is illegal. So you continue to fight for Palestine, you continue to fight for Islam, you continue to fight for human rights everywhere in the world, including here in America. When everything happened a few months or a few years ago, this is injustice, and we need to stand and fight for all these injustices. It's not just about the Muslim cause or the Palestinian cause or the Syrian cause. It's about the injustice in this country that we never expected to face or see or deal with, like our third world countries that we came from or we lived in or we associate ourselves with.
Sure. And on that point, as you're addressing the importance of standing up for our brothers and sisters, as you know, Care Florida's Exposed series highlights U.S. political prisoners, some of whom, of course, we've highlighted who are still in prison, and we continue to uplift their stories and encourage people to learn more about them. I know that one of the websites that really does an excellent job at highlighting the cases of U.S. political prisoners is the Coalition for Civil Freedoms, and we encourage our audience to check out their website and to read more and learn more about these issues at civilfreedoms.org. But I'd like to end with this question, Brother Hatem, and that is a message to the community. When you hear about political prisoners who are still behind bars, like Imam Jamil Amin, like Sister Dr. Aafia Siddiqui, what is the message that you have to our community, to those who might be listening, in terms of how important it is for us to speak up, to get involved?
It's very, very important for us to speak up and to get involved and to support them and to support their families and to support their communities, because their communities, they did not till today open their doors for them. So we need to support that community. We need to stand next to that community and ask them to open the doors to support and not to be afraid, because no one is doing anything wrong. And the ones that are behind bars are all innocent, are all fabrication cases. And we dealt with every single one of them. And alhamdulillah, most of them are now either on their way out or they came out already and they finished their sentence. And a few cases that I know of were appealed, and it went down from 100 years to 17 to 25. and they're out now, alhamdulillah, or on their way out. So we cannot let Dr. Aafia Siddiqui continue the harassment, continue this, because if we don't support, nothing is going to change in her case. If we don't stand up and speak up and support her family and support the cause and support the brothers and sisters that are working on her cause. I mean, some of us are afraid to just work on these causes. That's fine. You have that right and that feeling, and we cannot really change your mind about it, but you can support. You can donate to their campaigns. You can there is a lot of ways to support and to do things right, especially when you are dealing with 501c3 organizations that are fighting for these cases. You are absolutely okay with the government, with the IRS, to do your job and your duty by donating, and this is the minimum we can do, inshallah.
Inshallah. Jazakallah khair. Thank you, Brother Hatem. May Allah reward you for taking the time and also for having the courage to share your story and to uplift those who are still behind bars. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant them freedom sooner and also enable us to be a part of that process, inshallah. To our viewers who may be interested in going back and watching some of our exposed series from the past, I invite you to visit our website, which is careflorida.org, and go to the programs tab where you can find our exposed series. And if you're interested in learning more about Care Florida's Muslim inmates advocacy work, then you can also, from our website, go to the Muslim inmates advocacy tab, careflorida.org/MIA. Thank you very much for joining us and for being a part of the program and for your commitment. And I know that everyone who's watching must leave with a sense of commitment to change and to be a beacon of change in this world and in the United States and locally. And inshallah, with the right intentions, we can and we will help those who are oppressed, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair. Until next time, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.